Welcome to Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk, 1180 for the best in Saturday Talk Radio at 1 o'clock, and on 1230 KGEO at 10 o'clock Saturday, and for the best in Wednesday Talk Radio on 1410 KERI on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And Clay, does that make us syndicated?
Yeah, we're all over Kern County.
Actually, Greg just informed me that to be syndicated, you have to be in two different markets.
Well, we are in two different markets. We're in the Christian market and the secular market.
I like that. Okay, that works for me. Excuse me. Your host is Clay Koerner, and I'm Marty Pay. And behind the big board, our producer, Greg Held. Clay, I really liked last week's show with Stephen Moore from the Wall Street Journal.
You know, Steve's really got it together, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I'm still amazed at how he predicted the economic meltdown years before it happened.
Well, and I hope his prediction about the upcoming election is true too.
Are we little mic problem there? Okay, now that's okay.
No, I haven't seen Mike all morning.
Oh, okay. Put it up. We got to spend some time with two special people last week too. Lily Marsh from the Honor Flight. That organization sends World War II veterans to Washington, D.C. to see their memorial. It's a worthwhile cause. Now, keep in mind, we're losing World War II veterans at the rate of 900 a day. So time's running out. If you're a veteran or you want to support veterans' causes, I can't recommend this one enough because time is running out. It used to be we were losing 1,000 a day. Now we're down to 900 a day. So... they're going to do 3 flights out of Kern County this year.
So. Going to charter their own plane. I went to their meeting the other day at the Petroleum Club. Great group, really working hard.
Yeah, it really is. Then we had a chat with Wendy Porter from the Wounded Heroes Fund. Their fundraiser is on the 28th. And if you plan on attending, please come by and say hello because I'll have a sign-up sheet there for the petition to let Washington know about our one POW in Afghanistan, Sergeant Bergdahl. He's been there 3 years, and we want to make sure he gets out alive. I want to make 2 editorial comments before we introduce our guest for the hour, and then Clay has one he wants to make. A man died this past weekend, a man that the media will remember as the man who once said he would sell his grandmother to get Richard Nixon reelected, Chuck Colson. But Chuck, for the majority of his life, did more through his prison ministry to help change lives than he ever did as a government official. I know if it wasn't for his books, Born Again and Kingdoms in Conflict, I'd never have written a book or I would never have picked up a radio microphone. Thank you, Chuck, for so many of us, and welcome home, warrior. Second comment I want to make is... excuse me, I spent most of this past week in Sacramento, and Clay was there a couple weeks earlier.
Both of us regret that, don't we?
Yeah. The trip reinforced 2 things for me. One is that we need a part-time legislature, big time. But along with that, we need to limit donations by corporations and labor unions to politicians. We need to break the stranglehold on our state government. In the next couple of weeks, we'll have Assemblywoman Shannon Grove and Bob Lowen to talk about these issues. Clay, you had an issue you wanted to talk about?
Well, you know, on a positive side, Marty, I wanted to do a shout-out to a local business here in Bakersfield. And this past Tuesday evening, I attended the investors meeting for Valley Republic Bank at the Petroleum Club. Got to say, I was impressed with how well the bank's doing. It's interesting that Valley Republic Bank was the last private bank approved by the government, which I found really interesting. And over the past 8 years, that's over the past 8 years. And Valley Republic Bank is really highly rated, if not the top-rated bank of all the new banks that have started out in the last 8 years. They're now opening up their agricultural loan program, and they're expanding to a second location. Their cash position, their loan portfolio, the reserves are all excellent and above average. If you're looking for a bank home, I'd strongly recommend Valley Republic Bank on California Avenue. Of course, I'm a little prejudiced because I am a charter investor.
Ah, okay. Now, are they making loans? Because a lot of banks aren't making loans.
They're making loans, and they're expanding their loan portfolio, and they're getting into the agricultural business loan.
Okay, good. Well, our poor guest has been sitting on hold this whole time. He's been very gracious to wait while we go through this. We've got a special guest we've had on before, an old friend of the program, the Regional Director for the National Right to Life, Brian Johnston, who's also the Director of the LifeFest Film Festival. We want to talk about both today. Brian, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Well, Marty and Clay, good to be on with you again.
It's good to have you, Brian.
And Brian, again, I apologize. I wish we would have been able to connect and get some coffee while I was up in Sacramento, but apparently you and I both had a busy week up there.
Yeah, it's always wrestling alligators, and what's the old saying? Anyone who likes sausages or laws should never watch either one being made. So it's a messy place, and I'm glad you got out of here safely.
Oh, yeah, I did. But at the end of it, you just feel like, I hate to put it this way, but sometimes you feel like you need a very, very hot shower when you leave Sacramento or Washington.
Oh,
because of the political situation up there. It's getting worse as we go on.
Well, since you're talking about food, did you get your pepperoni pizza?
I did not.
That's Obama who eats dog meat.
Oh, pepperoni pizza.
Oh. Well, that's because Obama said he ate dog meat.
That's an oblique Obama joke. I do get that.
Yeah, there you go.
But some of the messy stuff that's gone on up here actually, unfortunately, does have to do with life. Mm-hmm. And this last week we saw again some of the sausage factory in business, and just it's very unpleasant. Both of you know that our current
Greg, I can barely hear Brian there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Well, I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you fine.
Okay.
It's Marty's plugged ears.
You know what it is? We have some new equipment in here, and it's kind of throwing me a little bit. Okay, now
I've
got
on one of these new phones, so I'll do my best to project. What's happened this last week, and as both of you know, is that the California legislature is entirely controlled by the Democratic Party.
Surprise, surprise.
And the Democratic Party is entirely controlled by the most radical elements within that party. So when it comes to issues like the issue of life, the legislature does whatever it wants, and it will not listen to reason. One of the bills that is moving through right now through the state Senate is SB 1338. SB 1338 would change current law regarding abortion. Under California law right now, it's required that if you're going to do an abortion, you better be a physician, a trained surgeon, before you do an abortion, because these are very inherently dangerous procedures, not just for the baby, but also for the mother. Well, what this would do, 1338 would grant the right for nurses, nurse practitioners, and midwives to also do abortions, to do aspiration abortions. And what a vacuum aspiration abortion is the typical abortion that is performed in California. And essentially, it's a very powerful vacuum cleaner that's hooked up to a wand, which is inserted into the mother's womb. And then the doctor blindly feels with that powerful wand that is now sucking contents of the uterus, feels for the baby and has to hope to find that baby, and so has to probe and is only using a sense of touch. And the problem with that is that this can often result in serious problems. Perforated uterus is not uncommon because they're trying to get every last bit. If you leave any part of that baby in there, that can cause infection and sepsis and even death. So they have to find all the body parts. It's not a pleasant procedure. They don't like, as you know, the choice groups don't really talk about what's being chosen. They don't want to use the word abortion even. But they really hate when an abortion is described.
Mm-hmm.
So in the Public Safety Committee in the Senate, which happened this last Tuesday, Planned Parenthood and the ACLU brought this bill forward, and specifically the chair of the committee specifically asked that we only talk about, Lonnie Hancock is her name, Senator Hancock said, we're just going to talk about what nurses do. And she did not want any discussion of what they were about to allow nurses to do. She didn't want any discussion of the procedure. Planned Parenthood, the advocate for Planned Parenthood basically said in their arguments, well, you know, a lot has changed since 1992 and the requirement you had to be a physician. That was reiterated in 1992. And because there's new ways of doing abortion, it's now safer. And so, therefore, we can have non-physicians do abortions. Well, I was appalled at this, and I had to, in my comments, I set aside my prepared comments, and I had to point out, well, I'm sorry, there are indeed new ways of doing abortion, like RU-486. That's true. What is not true is that vacuum aspiration is not new. And I then started reading from Bernard Nathanson's book, Aborting America. Bernard Nathanson was the founder of the National Abortion Rights Action League. Mm-hmm. He has overseen, he's now passed away, but he had overseen more abortions than any other human being in history. He then repented, as you know, Marty and Clay.
Yes.
And he became very pro-life. And he has stated that vacuum aspiration abortion is inherently dangerous because of what I just described, that a doctor is really blindly searching for that baby. And so there's a lot of problems. And what happens, and this is recorded, I also presented 2 articles from the LA Times. Surgeons, trained surgeons, often botch abortions. And there's been many articles written about this, if the media is willing to investigate this. So these are individuals that are trained in how to do it. They then, often, if there's problems, they can bring the woman to an emergency room. They have rights at a local hospital, and they can try to cover up or somehow resolve this botched abortion. But the fact is that nurses don't have those rights. Midwives don't have those rights. So it's an incredible violation of the public safety. And yet, the chair gavelled me down, did not want any discussion of the procedure. And that's the nature of what we have in this legislature. It passed on party line votes. It's now going, I expect it to go to the full floor of the state Senate.
Incredible. Brian, let's talk a little bit, too, about, when we come back, about Romney, the pro-life issue, and obviously we want to get to LifeFest, okay? We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk, 1180.